So with the Chiefs' first game just a couple days away now, I wanted to give you all a complete overview of the Chiefs' entire 2025 offseason. From the biggest arrivals and departures, trades, the draft, to training camp, preseason, and even what to expect from the team based on the perceived to be strengths and weaknesses of the entire roster, I'm going to get into all that and more. So let's talk about it. But first, how about those? All right, so it's been a long offseason. Some fans have checked out completely until this week. Some fans have followed all along the way, but maybe there have been some details lost throughout all these months that have gone by. So I'm doing an overview of the entire offseason so you can basically know the state of the roster as the Chiefs get ready to take on the Chargers in Brazil. I want to first go over notable free agents that left and signed elsewhere. You had defensive tackle Tershawn Wharton signed a 3-year deal with the Panthers. Samaje Perine returned back to the Bengals on a 2-year deal. A big one for the defense, safety Justin Reed. He signed a 3-year deal with the Saints, $31.5 million. A lot of Chiefs fans wanted him back, especially on that contract. And that's still a big question mark, I think, to this day, is how is the safety room going to look without Justin Reed, the veteran leadership that he provided? Yes, they are high on safety Jaden Hicks, but there's even still some fans saying now, hey, go get a veteran depth piece. You had safety Deion Bush, Terez Achilles, Mike Edwards, a veteran that they brought in, hadn't really looked like the Mike Edwards of old that they had a couple years ago. So he's on the practice squad. And you'll see here as I go over the state of the roster, but that was probably the biggest guy to leave in free agency by far. Safety Justin Reed. Then few wide receivers really moved on. Wide receiver Justin Watson is now a Houston Texan. DeAndre Hopkins signed a 1-year deal with the Ravens. McCole Hardman, I think, is on the Packers practice squad. He didn't make the initial 53-man roster. And then defensive tackle Derek Nottie, yes, he signed elsewhere with the Jets, but as we'll see here in a second, the Chiefs just recently traded back for him, and he's now on the 53-man roster. Now, here's the players that the Chiefs either re-signed or extended, and you'll see them around. Wide receiver Hollywood Brown came back on another 1-year deal. He has been banged up most of training camp, hasn't played in the preseason, but he is trending towards playing this Friday against the Chargers. A big one, while they did let Justin Reed go, was actually retaining linebacker Nick Bolton on a 3-year, $45 million deal. They brought back a few other guys on some cheaper 1-year deals, Kareem Hunt, Juju Smith-Schuster, Charles Omenihu. There's incentives built into some of these contracts, especially Omenihu's, but they're all on basically a 1-year prove-it deal. And with Rashee Rice being suspended, which we will touch on here in a bit, Juju Smith-Schuster, I think, is going to have a pretty big role to play here, especially early on in the season. Now, 2 bigger moves that they made more recently was franchise tagging and extending right guard Trey Smith. Okay, so Trey Smith is the highest paid guard in all of football right now. Happy for him. A 6th-round pick that had health issues, and that's why he fell in the draft. The Chiefs took a calculated risk on him, and it has definitely paid off. And then they signed defensive end George Karlaftis to a multi-year extension as well. So you've got some of these 2022 draft picks extended or around. It doesn't look like Trent McDuffie is going to get a long-term deal done with the Chiefs before the start of the season, which is unfortunate, but you have him on a cost-controlled last year of his rookie deal, and his 5th-year option is only like $13.5 million. So the Chiefs do have some financial control over Trent McDuffie for the next couple of years. I don't know that a extension gets done or not, but hopefully next offseason, it's really a worry for another day. Well, now that we know who left and players either extended or re-signed, here are the guys that the Chiefs brought in that were not with the Chiefs last year. They signed offensive lineman, left tackle Jalen Moore from the 49ers on a 2-year, $30 million deal. And before the draft, he was slated to be the starting left tackle, even though he had limited experience as a starter. Good problems to have now, because obviously they drafted Josh Simmons, who we'll talk about in a second, and he is going to be the starter. And Jalen Moore right now is a kind of expensive swing tackle, but again, when you saw the Chiefs get demolished by the Eagles in Super Bowl 59 because of the O-line issues they had, I would rather overcorrect and have more linemen than you need right now, because injuries do happen and sadly will. Anyway, after that, they signed the former 49er as well, another former 49er, running back Elijah Mitchell, to a pretty cheap 1-year deal. He missed all of last year with a hamstring injury, and he still hasn't lived up to, I think, what the coaching staff was hoping for. He's running back 3 on the depth chart right now, but he could very well be a healthy and active on Friday, with Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco, and Brashard Smith, their 7th-round rookie, being the ones who actually dress out. It's unfortunate because Elijah Mitchell has a lot of athletic traits, and you were kind of betting on a low-risk signing with him, but still, I don't think they move on from Elijah Mitchell, because if injuries hit that room, he would be the next man up. Now, They added to their secondary cornerback Christian Fulton, the former Charger, a 2-year, $20 million deal. He did sadly have an offseason knee cleanup procedure done, missed a lot of training camp. He came back late, and he did play a lot of snaps in this last preseason game. He's going to work in this week. I don't know how much he's actually going to play, but you're going to, at times, hopefully, see Christian Fulton and Jalen Watson on the outside, and that's going to allow Trent McDuffie to kick into the slot and cover Ladd McConkey, the Chargers' #1 target, who plays a lot in the slot. But this is more than just a talk about week one kind of a situation here. Hopefully, Trent McDuffie can play in the slot much more, but I don't know how much Christian Fulton is going to work in because of all the time that he's missed. However, they got him on a 2-year deal, and we do need him this year. That's for sure, because a big problem last year was the secondary. Specifically, after you traded away L'Jarius Sneed and Jalen Watson broke his ankle, you needed more depth in that room, and you definitely got it. They also, again, I mentioned this, they brought in safety Mike Edwards on a 1-year deal, but he's now on the practice squad. They signed defensive end Janarius Robinson. He ended up going on IR with a foot injury and had surgery. Then defensive tackle Jerry Tillery, he's on a 1-year deal, and he did make the roster, and he's going to be in the rotation along the interior defensive line, especially with the Chiefs' second-round draft pick and Omar Norman-Lott dealing with ankle issues, which I'll get to when we go over the draft picks. And then they signed quarterback Gardner Minshew to be QB2 for the first time ever. Mahomes has a quarterback in that room, a backup quarterback in that room that's younger than him, and he is a former Raider, which is pretty funny. Now, a big thing that the Chiefs did, aside from not signing Justin Reed to a contract and letting him walk, was actually trading away Joe Thuney to the Chicago Bears for a 2026 4th-round pick. So that was a big one. You couldn't pay all the people you were paying on that line when you had Jalen Moore on a 2-year, $30 million deal. Joe Thuney's cap hit was like $26 million. Creed Humphrey's the highest paid center in all of football. Trey Smith is now the highest paid guard. And then Jawan Taylor is on like a 4-year, $80 million deal, and his cap hit this year is like $27 million as well. So what they did was bet on the age of Trey Smith, and they got him done long-term, a long-term deal done with him. And then Joe Thuney is now sadly a Bear. It's tough because that's probably the biggest weakness on the offense right now is you're going from Joe Thuney to Kingsley Suamataia at left guard. He's the perceived to be starting left guard. They're going to give him probably several games is what I would do and see if he can pan out at the guard position. He's going to be the weakness on the line. You're going from a top 3 guard in all of football in Joe Thuney to Kingsley Suamataia, who was supposed to be the Chiefs' left tackle last year and got benched because Trey Hendrickson really wrecked that man's life in that game. So I am optimistic that Kingsley can pay off at the left guard spot, but we're going to go through growing pains on that left side because you also have the first-round rookie offensive tackle in Josh Simmons. They also very recently traded away wide receiver Sky Moore to the 49ers. It was a late-round pick swap, a 6th and 7th-round pick swap in the 2027 NFL draft. Sky Moore wasn't going to make the roster. Meanwhile, the 49ers really needed wide receiver help. So he moves on, and I wish him the best. He didn't pan out in KC. He had a couple of plays, couple of moments his rookie year, specifically in the playoffs, a punt return, I think, in the AFC Championship, a touchdown catch in the Super Bowl. Outside of that, didn't really do all that much, so I do wish him the best. And then they did trade for Derek Nottie. I mentioned that a little bit earlier, and this was very recent at the end of training camp during the preseason, I believe. And it was basically trading away Sky Moore to the 49ers for that pick swap, and then Derek Nottie, that same pick. It's a 2027 conditional 7th-round pick in exchange for a 2027 conditional 6th. You essentially flipped Sky Moore for Derek Nottie. Derek Nottie was a bit of a confusing move here because the Chiefs opted to move on from Derek Nottie. In the offseason, he signed with the Jets, but then they traded back for him and let Mike Pennell walk after cutdowns. When Mike Pennell was slated to be the starter, he worked in all training camp, all preseason as the starter, and he's actually with the Cincinnati Bengals now. We'll do a roster overview at the end here, position group by position group, as well as weaknesses and what to expect this season, at least how things have shaped up so far throughout training camp and preseason. So if you're overwhelmed right now, don't worry. We'll kind of break it down and clean it all up for you at the end. And I also, from here, want to get into the draft, some of these draft picks, and how I think they could help the roster even this year. But first, if you're looking for a premium fiberglass-free mattress designed to upgrade your sleep, improve your overall quality of life, and is also conveniently shipped to your door for free in the US, then look no further than to the longest active sponsor of the channel, Bear Mattress. You can head to bearmattress.com/HBTC and use my code HBTC to get 40% off your mattress. And here's why you should consider. My wife and I have had our Bear Mattress for over 2 years now and enjoyed our sleep experience so much that both of our daughters now sleep on a Bear Cub mattress of their own. Then we even upgraded from our queen size Elite Hybrid mattress to a king because we have even more space now in our new place. My wife loves the extra room, and it also helps that each mattress is created without the use of harmful chemicals, don't contain any fiberglass which can be detrimental to your health, and if you tend to sleep hot, Bear's sleep recovery technology uses Celliant-powered fabric to help us stay cool throughout the night. They make the experience super easy as well. They have an online quiz you can take to help find the best mattress for you based on your preferences and sleep positions. For example, I sleep on my back and prefer a medium firmness to my mattress, but my wife sleeps on her stomach and prefers a mattress that's more firm, and that's why Bear matched us up with the Elite Hybrid mattress to benefit us both. And after ordering, they shipped it right to our front door for free. Again, shipping is free in the US, and from there, all we had to do was unbox it, unroll it, and boom, our sleep quality was instantly upgraded. It also helps knowing that Bear has a 120-night sleep trial, so you get more than 3 months to make sure that you love it. On top of that, they have a limited lifetime warranty and offer financing options and flexible payment plans. So if you want to upgrade your sleep, head to bearmattress.com/HBTC and use my code HBTC to get 40% off your Bear mattress. This is higher than what's being offered on site, so check it out while you can. All right, let's get into all these draft picks and expectations for them and how I think things could play out for them this year. They drafted Josh Simmons. In the first round, they actually traded back one spot with the Eagles for a 5th-round pick, and I believe they used that pick to draft their linebacker, Jeffrey Bossa. Now, this was a guy who was going to be a top offensive tackle in the draft, probably going top 10, but he tore his patellar tendon, okay? And the Chiefs basically already had Jalen Moore, so they could say, hey, let's bet on the health of Josh Simmons, even if he doesn't pan out this year and essentially redshirts. Well, he has exceeded all expectations all offseason long, and he is going to be the Chiefs' starting left tackle week 1 and hopefully for years to come. And that's great because Patrick Mahomes has been in 5 Super Bowls and he's had 5 different left tackles. So get this man a franchise left tackle, and that is really going to help. The next draft pick that they made was actually for defensive tackle Omar Norman-Lott. He had a really successful pass rush win rate in college. So you're trying to pair a guy along the defensive interior with Chris Jones and just create some mismatches and even maybe give Chris Jones a little bit of a break. Well, I liked the pick. I really liked the pick initially, but he's been dealing with an ankle injury since the beginning of training camp, and he retweaked it again in a preseason game. Hasn't really practiced. He might play in Brazil, but I don't have a lot of expectations for him right now based on that ankle, and he probably needs to sit, to be honest, but I have higher expectations for him later on in the season when he gets healthy, and I think this was part of the reason why the Chiefs ended up trading for Derek Nottie. He knows the system, you gave up a conditional pick, he's super cheap, and you can plug and play him right now, especially with Omar Norman-Lott banged up. Mike Pennell has now also moved on. A few picks later in the 3rd round, they drafted defensive end Ashton Gillotte out of Louisville. He trained with George Karlaftis in the offseason, and he's kind of George Karlaftis-esque in how he goes about things. He's super high motor guy, strong physical pass rusher. He's continued to get better and stand out, and even stood out over Felix Anudike-Uzomah, the Chiefs' former 1st-round pick, on the depth chart, and FAU is on IR for the season. He hurt his hamstring in, I think, the 2nd preseason game, so he's actually out of the picture completely. Ashton Gillotte, because of that, is going to work in even more, so he's a very important pick. Look at the relative athletic score of Ashton Gillotte, 9.74. This dude is an athlete's athlete. He loves football. He's always responding to his mom on Twitter saying, "Love you, Mom." He just seems like a good dude, and I'm very excited for the future here. You extended Karlaftis. You also have Ashton Gillotte around. Mike Dana's on the last year of his deal, and Minihue on a 1-year deal, so you needed some future in that room, and you now have it. Anyway, their next pick, they traded up. They traded that 2026 4th-round pick that they got for Joe Thuney. So hopefully this is worth it. But they traded up for the ball hawk, Noel Williams out of Cal. He had 7 interceptions in 2024, which led the FBS, and 14 picks in his career. He's not going to pop out on an RAS, his relative athletic score, nothing like that, but he's got a very quick back pedal. He's very durable, has barely missed any games. He can provide you some return experience. He loves to play against the run, and he is still learning the system and getting acclimated. I think when you look at the depth chart later, he's going to be like 4th on that list right now in the rotation, but still, I think the future is pretty bright for Noel Williams. You needed some depth in that room and some future at the position because you have so many guys from that 2022 draft class, the Fab Five, talking Trent McDuffie, Brian Cook, Nazi, Josh Williams, and Jalen Watson. All 5 of those guys are from 2022, and they're all in the last year of their deal, except for Trent McDuffie, who got his 5th-year option picked up. But I don't know what to expect of him this year. Talking about Noel Williams, probably some special teams work, and then if injuries hit the room, he'll work in at defense, but he's still learning the system. I still like him a lot. He was one of my favorite draft picks of the entire bunch. Next up, they got Jalen Royals, though, in the 4th round. He's a wide receiver out of Utah State, a little bit of a smaller school, but he had the fastest 10-yard split in the entire wide receiver class. He is sadly banged up, and he's not going to play week 1 in Brazil. He's dealing with what they're describing as knee tendonitis. There's some swelling going on in his knee, and he needs some more time. But Jalen Royals has a lot of similarities to Rashee Rice. That's part of the reason why they were so high on him, and probably were hoping they could use him during Rice's suspension. They didn't know when it would happen, but we found out a couple weeks ago that Rice is going to be suspended the first 6 weeks of the season. So yeah, no Rashee Rice, and they were hoping for Jalen Royals to potentially fill in a little bit. I mean, this is a rookie and an Andy Reid offense, so I wasn't expecting him to go nuclear, but he's got great yards after the catch, and I thought he would work in a little bit more. Hopefully he does week 2, week 3, once he gets that knee right. Now, their 5th round pick was Jeffrey Bassa, linebacker Jeffrey Bassa out of Oregon. Think of him really as life after Drew Tranquill. He is a converted safety turned coverage linebacker. He stood out during the preseason, had a lot of great plays, instinctive plays against the run, tackles for loss. He will work in on defense on a rotational basis, mainly a depth piece, but if injuries hit the room, he very well could see a lot of playing time here. He'll work in a lot of special teams as well, but he wore the green dot for Oregon in 2024. So yeah, he's a converted coverage linebacker, but could even work in to run the defense in a pinch, probably not this year, but in future years for sure. And their last pick of the draft was running back Brashard Smith in the 7th round, a super deep, strong running back class. I thought the Chiefs might opt to take a running back a little bit earlier, but he's at least a intriguing guy you're hoping develops and improves over the years. Because if you look at the running back room, there's no longevity there. Pacheco's on the last year of his deal. Kareem Hunt is on a 1-year deal, as is Elijah Mitchell. So you got Brashard Smith on a rookie deal, cost controlled, really cheap as a 7th rounder. But here's why I like him so much. He's a super athletic guy, high relative athletic score, at least from a speed perspective, runs a sub 4.40, but he's a converted wide receiver. So he's only had 1 year of experience at the running back position, but SMU's head coach swayed Smith to transfer there after being a wide receiver in Miami. He transferred to SMU as the running back, kind of saying, hey, come be our Isaiah Pacheco at Rutgers, which was pretty cool. But you're going to see him in some niche packages on offense, and they're going to intentionally try to create mismatches with Brashard Smith in coverage on like a linebacker or a safety, and then he'll be used on special teams maybe as one of the kick returners. So you can see on screen, here's all the draft picks. Josh Simmons, defensive tackle Omar Norman-Lott, defensive end Ashton Gelati, cornerback Noel Williams, wide receiver Jalen Royals, linebacker Jeffrey Bassa, running back Brashard Smith. You never want to give too much praise or critique on a draft class until a couple years from now, but I am excited about this draft class, and all of these guys made the roster. Expect some good things from them this year and then more in the future as they work in. But obviously, you've got Josh Simmons. He's going to be your starting left tackle, so really rooting for that guy. And then we really need Ashton Gelati to step up in the rotation in the defensive end room to help out that D-line. So that was the offseason and kind of brings us to the here and now. I just want to break down the roster and kind of give my thoughts around each position group and kind of what to expect here. You've got Mahomes and Minshew in the QB room. No surprises there. Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, Elijah Mitchell, and Brashard Smith. Those are your 4 running backs. But again, Elijah Mitchell, he might not be dressing out. And then you'll have Pacheco being the main back, Kareem Hunt, your short yardage guy, goal line guy, maybe even your 3rd down running back. I don't think Brashard Smith is ready to be a third down back because of his lack of experience at the position. So again, he's going to be your niche package guy on offense and then contribute on special teams. The wide receiver room is an interesting one because they had 8 wide receivers on their initial 53-man roster last week, but then Rashee Rice got suspended. So Rice is out the first 6 weeks of the season. And in the meantime, you've got Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thornton, Nico Remigio, and Jason Brownlee. They're going to be playing in this game, maybe all 6. We'll see. I didn't include Jalen Royals there because he's probably not playing. But yeah, big year for Xavier Worthy heading into year 2. Hollywood Brown, he's trending towards playing after being injured a lot of training camp. But we kind of need that guy with Rice suspended. And then Juju Smith-Schuster, he is looking great, very healthy, feels better physically than he has in years. And I think he's going to play a lot in Rice's role, even though Mahomes recently said it's going to be more than just one person that is going to try to fill the void left behind by Rashee Rice. And then Tyquan Thornton, he is a former second-round pick by the Patriots that signed with the Chiefs practice squad late last year, and he climbed the ranks, showed out, and made the 53-man roster after an impressive training camp and preseason. This is a burner. This is one thing about the wide receiver room. Not only do a lot of these guys have more experience in the system because Worthy in year 2, Hollywood Brown in year 2, you have Juju Smith-Schuster in year 2 since his return from his brief stint with the Patriots. Tyquan Thornton has been here since November, knows the system pretty well. And then when Rashee Rice comes back, he knows the offense in and out. So it's a lot more experience in that room overall and a lot of speed. They made an emphasis to bring back speed into this room. And then Nico Remigio, he's going to be mainly your punt returner, your kick returner. Jason Brownlee, not sure if he's even going to dress out, but his kind of specialty is going to be your jump ball 50-50 guy, caught a touchdown pass in preseason from Patrick Mahomes. So we'll see about Jason Brownlee. Then the tight end room. You've got Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, Jared Wiley, and Robert Tonyan. Big Bob Tonyan, he made the roster after not initially making it, but was added back, and he deserved to be on there after Rashee Rice was placed on the reserve suspended list. Kelsey's looking good, lost some weight, looks quick out there, healthy. Noah Gray, one of the better tight end 2s in the entire NFL. Jared Wiley, he's the one I'm not really sure about right now because he tore his ACL last year and is still working back from that. He is on the roster, but just doesn't look quite himself. So I think Robert Tonyan, he's a 31-year-old veteran, has played a little bit around the league, caught some passes from Aaron Rodgers. He was probably the offensive standout for me, maybe aside from Tyquan Thornton and Josh Simmons, deserved to make the roster, and I'm glad he's on there. The O-line, we talked about most of the starters, Josh Simmons, Kingsley Suamataia, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Jawan Taylor, with Jalen Moore kind of being the next man up in case of injury. Wanye Morris, Mike Caliendo, and Hunter Norzad are going to be your depth pieces. Wanye a tackle, Caliendo is your interior guy, and Hunter Norzad has center guard flex. Then for the defense, the D-line, we'll see. I have some concerns or reservations, especially about the depth, at least in really both groups, the interior and on the edge. You obviously have Chris Jones, Jerry Tillery, Omar Norman-Lott, and Derek Nottie, but they wanted to go a different direction with Derek Nottie in the offseason and ended up bringing him back out of necessity. Chris Jones is DT1. I like Jerry Tillery and what I've seen from him, but Omar Norman-Lott has that banged up ankle. So they've got a guy or 2 on the practice squad you might see get elevated for this game against the Chargers. For defensive ends, yeah, you got Karlaftis, Dana, Aminahue, Ashton Gelati, and then Malik Herring is actually your defensive end 5 because you had both Janarius Robinson and FAU get placed on IR. That is going to be something we need. We need a bigger step up from the D-line as a whole compared to last year. But I think part of the O-line's problem, rather D-line's problem, was because the coverage regressed. So one thing I'm excited for about the defense this year is you beefed up the cornerback room. Sure, there are some questions about the safety room with Justin Reed now with the Saints, but you've got McDuffie, you've got Jalen Watson, you then signed Christian Fulton and drafted Noel Williams. Chris Roland Wallace is kind of technically a corner, but he's going to be your safety 4. He's your backup slot guy as well. But part of the problem with the defense last year was a lot of Chamari Connor in the slot, and then you didn't have the depth in the cornerback room for Trent McDuffie to kick inside. Well, you beefed up the cornerback room. I think Trent McDuffie will be able to play inside in the slot at times, and Chamari Connor will shine more as a safety than he would as a slot corner. So the 3 safeties right now is Jaden Hicks, Brian Cook, and Chamari Connor. Those will be your primary 3, but Chris Roland Wallace, even though he's a cornerback, He has been playing safety all training camp and preseason. And then Joshua Williams is your depth guy because Nazeeh Johnson right now with a shoulder issue is on IR with a designation to return after 4 games. And then I want to jump right back down to linebackers before we get to the specialists. For the linebacker room, yeah, you've got Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquill, Leo Chanel, Jeffrey Bossa, Jack Cochran, and the only UDFA to make the roster in Cooper McDonald. That's pretty exciting for him. He's primarily going to be a core special teamer. Nick Bolton, great 3-year, $45 million deal. He's around. He's the brains of the defense. Spags, everybody loves the guy. He has very high IQ, instincts against the run, limitations and coverage. We know the deal, but the defense is definitely better with him out there, in my opinion, than Drew Tranquill. Coverage linebacker, he's dealing with the back issue, should be playing, but it did keep him out of a bit of the preseason. I think he's going to be fine, and hopefully he just takes a step up from last year. I think he regressed a little bit. And then Leo Chanel, you're going to use him in niche ways. He has lined up on the edge a little bit, has his strengths. He's one of the strongest pound-for-pound guys on the team. They just don't love to have him out there all the time. Special teams, specialists, no changes here. Harrison Butker, he looks incredible coming off of the knee cleanup procedure he had last year. He's fine. Kicker 1 in the NFL. Matt Ariza, he's looking a lot better as a punter this year. And then James Winchester, the old faithful long snapper, is back as well. So there you go. There's the offseason of the Chiefs in a bit of a nutshell. If you're just looking for your place to be like, okay, what's the state of the team? What's the state of the roster? What are things looking like? And those are hopefully some of the things that will help you as you're going to be watching the games this season. The roster is going to change. There are some improvements that I hope are made. All in all, I'm pretty confident about this Chiefs team. They have a pretty tough schedule with Rashee Rice suspended. The one good news of Rashee Rice being suspended weeks 1 through 6 is he's only missing 1 AFC West game. The other 5 AFC West games are week 7 and beyond. This is a very tough division this year. The AFC West got better. The Chargers, year 2 with Harbaugh. Then the Broncos, you've got year 2 with Bo Nix and Sean Payton kind of running the ship. Some people are even projecting the Broncos to win the division. The Raiders will probably finish 3rd or 4th, most likely 4th in the division, but they got better. They brought in Pete Carroll as head coach. You've got Geno Smith now, the former Seahawk, as their quarterback. It got better. I think the AFC West is probably the 2nd best or 1st best division in all of football. The only competition that I would stack it up with is the NFC North, especially now that the Packers just traded for Micah Parsons. I think the Chiefs are going to win the West. These are way too early predictions, but I think they're going to win the West again until proven otherwise. They're probably going to win around 13 games in the Patrick Mahomes era. They've won 12, 14, or 15 games every single year aside from 1 where they won 11. I'm going with about 13 wins. It's a difficult stretch. Yes, you've got to play a Super Bowl rematch against the Eagles, obviously. You've got the Bills, the Lions, the Commanders. There's a bunch of dogs. And then the AFC West, of course, is not getting any easier. I still think, though, the Chiefs have all the pieces needed. I didn't talk about the coaching staff because most of them are still intact. You still have Spags as the DC. You still have Matt Nagy as the OC. That's whatever to me because Andy Reid runs the offense, calls the plays, all of that. So you've got the same core coaching staff at almost really every position group. They had very little roster or coaching turnover, which is a big key to the Chiefs' success. And anybody predicting the Chiefs to kind of fall off this year, I just don't see why. It doesn't make any sense to me because you still have all your core pieces. Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, that's the big 3. Trent McDuffie is still around. The wide receiver room is upgraded. And you got to think about this. They actually have a left tackle now. Sure, the left guard spot might be the weakness, but Patrick Mahomes has shown you, if you can protect him, especially at the tackle spots, you make it to the Super Bowl and you most likely win it. They're 2 blowouts. They're 2 Super Bowl losses, 55 against the Bucs, 59 against the Eagles. No O-line. It was an awful train wreck last year. In the O-line, specifically left side category, you had 3 or 4 different left tackles, and Joe Thuney, the left guard, ended up finishing over there on the left side. Pretty much a disaster. So when you look at them fixing the O-line, beefing up the cornerback room, which was another weakness to me, and then just people getting healthy, I don't know how you can sit here and say, oh, the Chiefs are going to have a down season, because they made it to the Super Bowl with a bunch of injuries. Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Isaiah Pacheco, Jalen Watson. Those guys were out most of the season, and when they did return, they still didn't look right. And then you had no left tackle, but you still made it to the Super Bowl, so you got healthy, deeper at some positions. Yes, there's still some question marks and concerns about the left guard spot, maybe the running back room depth and the defensive tackle room depth and safety position. But what roster around the NFL, maybe unless it's the Eagles, but they even have their own question marks because of some guys they lost in free agency. But I say all that to say, what roster doesn't have some question marks? You're going to spend the first 4 to 6 weeks trying to figure things out. Spag spoke at a presser this week and said, yeah, they're really going to spend the first quarter of the season figuring out their identity on defense. And that's really going to be the same for the offense. And you're going to start to figure that out. And then Rashee Rice is going to return week 7 against the Raiders. I'm still very confident in this Chiefs team. I know I'm a Chiefs homer, Chiefs fan, blah, blah, blah. But when you look at it objectively, I don't see how the Chiefs fall off. I think they win the West. They're probably back in at least the AFC Championship game. Again, this year, going to be one of the top teams in the AFC West. You're going to get either the 1 or the 2 seed. Again, some think that they can sneak in as a wild card team and the Broncos are going to win the West. But show me. Prove that to me, because I'm not buying any preseason hype right now. The Chiefs have been there, done that, have shown us time and time again who they are and what they are. No, last year didn't end how we wanted it. They got their kicked. We all know that. But they've made some key upgrades. I'm very excited about this Chiefs team. Mahomes has looked very good. The deep ball could very well be back. Let me know your thoughts on the state of the Chiefs as we head into the 2025 regular season, week 1 against the Chargers in a couple of days here. But whenever you watch this, hopefully it's helped you. Send this to a friend or a family member that has maybe checked out during the season and doesn't really know what is going on. This one video that is hopefully 20-ish minutes, not much longer, should get them all caught up. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on all that and maybe your prediction for the Chiefs and how you think they're going to do this season, as well as your biggest concerns on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?